and welcome to the AppleInsider Podcast. I'm your host, Wes Hilliard. I'm joined once again by William Gallagher, and I'd like to thank our sponsor this week, Notion. And if you're a paid subscriber, you won't hear anything about any ads, but you will hear AppleInsider Plus, the after show that we do. And this week, we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals. I mean, not really. We're not going to be shoving anything down your throat, but we will discuss how we handle said holidays. Do we actually buy anything, or do we just ignore the mess? William, how you doing today?
I am celebrating Thanksgiving like every other Englishman in the UK. Quite quickly, I suppose. That's it. I'm fine over here. How are you over there? Are you in the middle of cranberry sauce or something?
We kind of did our Thanksgiving yesterday, so today is more of a spaghetti dinner, but, you know, holidays, gotta love it.
I thought you were going to say a recovery kind of day. But
no, it's all about food. I feel like that's like 80% of Americans' brain. That's what we do, is just think about the next meal.
Yeah, from over here, the impression is it's food and waiting in airports. And family rows. Though we're quite good at those ourselves, so, you know.
Yes, but I think I want to start off, speaking of holidays, Apple did drop their holiday ad, Heartstrings. It's very short, but to the point. It's, for me, everyone's talking about how, heartfelt it was, and I believe that. Feels a little bit, there's this thing back, I know animation still does it, but it was definitely a thing about, 30 years ago, of reusing the same keyframes in order to save on animation costs. And this 3-minute ad definitely capitalizes on reusing the same footage twice in a row for about a minute of the ad. So there's actually about a minute and a half of unique footage. I just kind of, that's where my brain went watching this ad, of course. Of course, the ad short is a girl getting a guitar on Christmas, starts strumming it, but the man in the ad cannot hear it. He has hearing loss. It's kind of muffled, and it starts playing these memories. It's all muffled. And then his wife's like, hey, why aren't you listening? And he puts his AirPods in, and suddenly he can hear everything, and we see all the same memories, but this time we can hear them. And it's very beautiful, very sweet. Definitely a tone shift from the AI ads where all humanity is inept and needs Apple's assistance.
It's funny, I really enjoyed it till you said that. So, hang on. When he puts the AirPods in, he can suddenly hear all the sounds he didn't hear before he put them in. It's like he time travels as well as... So, okay, not heavy on plot, but definitely I got quite choked watching it. So, yeah.
Maybe the AirPods are that good. They make your memory sound better.
AirPods Pro 5. That's where it's going.
The neural implants that Apple is planning for us. No, very sweet, but it does make me wonder what's going on in Apple's ad department. I mean, are they just out of money? I remember a time when it was almost kind of an event. The video they would share, it was, I mean, I get it, ads don't need to be an hour long, but they were a bit more longer, more detailed. You mentioned before the show the child seemingly absent from all the family activities in the corner on their iPad the whole time, but it turns out they're making a family video. The one that comes to mind for me is Frankenstein, and I think at the end he ends up with Christmas lights in his neck or something. I don't know. It was very sweet. Like the little girl like ushers him into town, and everyone actually likes him. And then there's the I can't remember if that was just an Apple ad. I think it was just an Apple logo. Like it was one of those ones where they didn't really have a specific product in mind. And then, of course, the snowman one, which is just very funny, where a little girl decides to save her snowman friend by keeping it in the freezer all year. And these terrible enabling parents allow her to do it. So,
see, the thing is, you have such a fond memory. I don't remember Frankenstein or the snowman. And actually, what I said before the show was that this teenager is secretly filming them behind their back.
Of course.
You said making a family video, and I went for spying angle of it. There used to be a thing here in the UK that there were certain companies, I think at the moment the only one is a retailer called John Lewis, that would famously do a very big production, very long adverts every Christmas. And usually it was quite, make you a bit teary for it. And they don't seem to have done it as effectively or as publicly as well spotted in the last few years. But it was a tradition, and it does seem to slightly died away. I think in this case, Apple's very good at telling a story in the length it needs to be told. It would have been a different story if it was longer. So
yeah, this one didn't need to be longer, and I enjoyed it. Nothing against this ad. I'm just recalling the production value of the previous ones, and this one being a little bit more akin to a man on a couch thinking of a slideshow. So, I do think it's kind of a long lasting Steve Jobs-ism of forgetting the past, throwing it away, and it's one of the sad parts of Apple is all this history of advertising. It doesn't exist because Apple ditches it very quickly. They unlist the YouTube ads, they take it down on their website. It's just gone, and any person who ever tries to build a database gets shut down with the DMCA complaints from Apple. So I don't know why they hate their own advertising so much. And again, it is an ad, so it's kind of silly. But I don't know. It's a little bit of nostalgia value to go back and watch some of these old things. And you kind of have to dig around the internet, or some people have a dedicated home storage network to downloading these ads and saving them in 4K, because I'm pretty sure there are definitely nerds who do that.
Yeah, some people do that, do they? Yeah, okay. You're not telling us something here at all? If we come round to your place, we can see these things? Is that not on your mind?
I have thought about it, but I don't have anything set up right now. It's just, one of those things that would be fun to do, and then I would forget to do it. But speaking of things people forget to do, Siri could be getting a lot smarter and remembering things for you very soon, right?
Yeah.
There's this rumor.
Again, I'm sorry, ever since Siri has come out, when it first came out, it can understand what you says and it gets the context. And every few years, it's going to understand what you say and it's going to get the context. And we had that about Apple Intelligence again, and apparently that bit's still coming out. But now there's yet another rumor, which I think you know more about than I do, that says, well, basically the same thing all over again. Isn't it, really?
Well, Siri's always apparently going to become the savior of our lives every year or so. It came out, right? We saw this little app a company made. Apple bought it, became part of the operating system, and we got an interesting user interface for creating calendars and reminders and stuff, and that's all well and good. I've always been a proponent of Siri. I've never understood people's hatred for it, because I think it just comes down to a misunderstanding of how to use it more than it being just bad at what it does. There are definitely moments, especially in the last couple of years, where it's gotten bad about certain things. Yes. I will admit that. But all I'm saying is at first it was like, why can't it sort my laundry? Well, it's not really built for that, right? And that it felt like a lot of that was happening, and then people quickly turned against it, and now anything it does wrong is this astronomical failure that deserves, to be set on fire. So that's, I guess, generally the direction of technology and evangelists. It's really hard to get people's trust back, and Apple hasn't really done much to get people's trust back. They created a new animation for Apple Intelligence to imply that there was something different about it, but it actually isn't different. And a lot of people have been confused over these last few months of Apple Intelligence of why isn't it any smarter? Well, it understands you better. They changed some of the language processing on device for how it interprets a command and whether or not you stutter or stop or pause or change your information. It's better at that. And I honestly don't believe that's an AI doing that. I think that's just better parsing. There's nothing AI about Siri or whatever right now. And the way I understand it, and maybe I'm wrong if anyone who's maybe at Apple or understands this better than I do, but this is my interpretation. Apple is still basically the same machine learning tool that we've had for a long time. It parses a command, it seeks out the application that fits that command, and then passes the information along. And I think it's still doing that, and Apple Intelligence is an app that it can call out to, just like it can call out to phone or reminders, or even now ChatGPT. I think Apple Intelligence is just another app in the pipeline, and Siri itself hasn't gotten any smarter. Apple just kind of disguised it with a new flashy glow. Is that your experience?
Yes, except I'm still finding it variable. I mean, I find I love Siri and it betrays me. This very common thing of you ask it to play a playlist you've asked it 40 times before and now it will play something completely different. Or this incredibly aggravating thing of you're in the car and you ask it to tell you direction somewhere and it says, I can't do that while you're in the car. Where else would you do it? Or the number of times you have to unlock your iPhone first, and sometimes it is unlocked. Usually, why are you saying this now and not yesterday? The inconsistencies drive me mad. I am close to having a kind of loathe-hate relationship with it, but I still prefer it to the others I've tried. So I keep hoping and I keep feeling let down. But in the last few weeks, I was one of the people very much confused by the changes because I saw the new animation and I thought it was better. There were certain things it wasn't doing wrong for a while, but now it's back. It's doing them wrong again. So I feel a bit dizzy from Siri at the moment.
I think everyone lives in a filter bubble, especially in technology. And I've been to homes with Alexa or Google Assistant, and let me tell you, they are hot garbage. I will say, like you can ask Google Assistant a question and it's better at answering generic Google search related questions. Alexa's excellent at ordering toilet paper when you run out. They all have their quirks and the things that they're better at. Absolutely. I'm not saying Siri is like the supreme being or anything, but it is always funny to me that this is something I've talked about before, written about before. I believe my poem was about this, was that this Apple distortion field has morphed to stop being about, well, what it was originally intended for. Every time it was a Steve Jobsian thing, right? People saying that basically Apple could sell you anything, warping reality around its products. Well, today it's more like everything that's discussed about Apple is discussed in this vacuum where other products don't exist. But if you start talking about those other products, people will make any excuse possible about, well, that's not really their thing, or they're going a different direction, right? The tech coverage around Google Assistant and Alexa praises them for their amazing, abilities, and then they're like, but Siri is this hot garbage. But then, like in actual use, and even talking to normal, regular people who have these things in their home, I get very different responses. Of course, they all just hate them. I don't think I've ever met a person who's just like, wow, I love my smart assistant. They're all just universally poor in some ways. But I just always, back to that earlier discussion, I always find it funny that people are like, Siri's just so bad. But honestly, from my experience, it's the best of the three as far as getting what I need done. I want to control my home, Siri's good at it. I want to control my device, it's good at it. Is it going to fix my life and give me relationship advice? No, but it's not built for that. And so when you go on Reddit or you see these conversations online about how terrible it is, it's like, well, what were you trying to do to it? Well, I was trying to get it to do three things at the same time. Well, it's not made for that. Well, why isn't it? Well, I didn't build it. I can't answer that question. In any case, all of that is about to change, right? We've seen ChatGPT emerge. We've seen Google abandon Assistant in favor of Gemini. Alexa has been dead for years. No one's willing to admit it, but even Amazon laid off pretty much its entire division. And there was a report, I think, last year about how it was just pouring money into the thing and wanted to sever it like a poisoned arm or something, right? It's just not going well for them. Not something anyone ever talks about. But again, I wrote an article a while back when Cortana finally died and made the joke that Siri was the last man standing. And people were like, what are you talking about? There's still these other things. Yeah, but have you seen the reports? Google doesn't care about Google Assistant anymore. Amazon has abandoned Alexa. After Cortana died, that was it. Siri's the last one from the original set of smart assistants. They've all moved on to their quote-unquote AI assistants. And it seems, I keep beating around the bush, Siri will soon become an AI assistant as well. So, at least in the terms of ChatGPT. Now, what I was discussing before, ML background, it's basically parsing information and passing it to other things. What an LLM background, an AI background would be, like a backend would be, is you speak to it and it responds like a chatbot. And I don't use that term disparagingly, but some people seem to think I do. But that's what these things are. ChatGPT is a chatbot, for better or worse. You're having a conversation with it. And Siri will soon be able to do similar things.
Are you saying then that they were all right, and that Apple has just copped onto itself and is again has to go away and catch up with Cortana, or whatever the sequels were to Cortana and Copilot? That's what I'm trying to think of.
Right.
Apple was wrong to carry on the way it was.
I would be very surprised if Apple dumps the Siri name. That's stuck. Unlike these other companies, I think Apple's going to commit to it and just be like, look at how much better ours is. But at the same time, I don't think it's like that. I think this is a natural evolution of technology. I think, ML becomes AI, right? As terrible as a name as it is, that's what it's going to, is this new large language model backend. Everything's moving to that, and I think it makes sense for Siri to do that too. But it's not like it's a cop-out. I mean, I don't even know if you call it catch-up. Everyone's talking about how Apple is behind, and they're catching up to ChatGPT and all these things, but at the same time, they're integrating them with their operating system. So I feel like the narrative thread has been lost. If we want to look at how Apple's handling these things, we should look back at how the original Siri worked and how it still works today. When you ask it a query and it doesn't know the answer right offhand, it doesn't have like the database knowledge, it asks Google using a private query for an answer, and it presents it as web results.
Right.
That's how it's always worked. Apple didn't build its own search engine. It just parsed it out to a company whom it has praised many times, saying it has the best search engine. And it's to this day, Google is still what Siri uses. You can't change that. Even if you have a default search engine change in Safari to DuckDuckGo, Siri still uses Google privately, but it still uses it. And I think that's where we are with this stuff. Apple will implement an LLM backend for Siri, but it will still pass information to ChatGPT. It's not going to cut that functionality off. So I think it's just healthy to view these things a little bit more widely. It's a technology Apple believes it can control and use. I think it's going to be better in a lot of ways as far as privacy and data concerns go, but it will still be different. It's not going to be ChatGPT where it can pretend that it knows things about the world and then make up answers.
Do we know? I take it this isn't going to come out on Tuesday. Do we know yet when it's likely to come?
Looks like this is from Bloomberg. So they're basically saying Apple's going to announce the new backend during WWDC in June of 2025, but it won't be available until iOS 19.4-ish, which is the spring release in 2026. Right. I think it's funny, though, because that's the same strategy that they used for the updated Siri it's baby steps, right?
Yeah.
What we're getting in the spring of this year is a half step to what we're getting in the spring of 2026, because we're getting these app intents that are going to give Siri on-screen context and deep app learning, just like Spotlight got, but now it's going to go to Siri and have better controls and understanding. But it's still not an LLM, to be clear. It's just using more information from your device passed on by the apps.
I don't remember iOS releases being quite so organized. I mean, no, that sounds wrong. Here we are saying, well, we've got this one in spring, iOS 18.4 in this date, 19.4 in that date. I always felt like Apple put out the best iOS they could and then updated it when they needed to, rather than trying to spread out the load of these things. Is it just that I've not been aware of that, or is this a new turn with Apple Intelligence?
It's not just Apple Intelligence. It used to be different, but in a very specific way. So we would get an announcement in June. Here's everything coming. And Apple would do its darndest to get everything out in September. maybe one thing would get delayed to October and everyone would be aghast. I can't believe they announced that in June and it didn't launch in September. And then it would launch in October and everyone would forget that they made those comments. But Apple actually, I can't remember the exact time, but I remember it being a discussion and everyone was very happy about it. It's like, oh, it looks like Apple's going to try a new approach to operating system updates. And that's going to be a trickle out approach where they announce everything in June, but it's going to be released from June to May over a long-term period, over operating system updates, giving developers time to target each individual release, each individual feature, rather than shoveling a bunch of stuff down their throat immediately and expecting them to catch up. So, and it was excellent until somehow the conversation shifted and everyone's like, why does Apple announce everything in June only to release it in May? This is so stupid, right? And so again, you can never win with these people. They're always going to be unhappy about something. Maybe therapy would help, but I just think it's just funny how people complain. Apple does thing they complain about. They praise them for about 5 minutes and they complain about the new method. There's no pleasing them. But we've been doing this particular release cycle for a couple years now. I can't pinpoint it exactly. I want to say pandemic time might have been when the shift began because it just made sense for them to delay certain things. Work from home was happening. There was a lot of crazy stuff, so they pushed things out, and I think it worked out for them, and it worked out for developers, and they just leaned into it. So Siri getting the new not backend, but I guess it is kind of a backend, but the new app intents in early 2025 makes sense. I mean, yeah, we would all love to have had it in September, but right now the pundits are all saying, look how terrible Apple is. They announce all these things and they can't even release it on release day, but they never really implied that. I think in the original press release it said later this year or coming later, which usually means the next year. And this is how this is going. So of course, punditry has just said, well, if it takes Apple until 2026 to get Siri on an LLM backend, imagine how powerful and amazing ChatGPT and Gemini will be by then. They'll be so far ahead. Apple will be so behind. We can't believe it. It's just this, I love it because it fits so many things, but we're back to, God, his first name is escaping me, McMahon, the wrestling owner, the WWE owner who would make all those facial expressions in the meme. We're just back to that again. They're just getting so excited and overwhelmed. They're falling out of their chairs about how they're going to have so much fun talking about how far behind Apple is when we don't even know what its capabilities will be or where it's going to place in the timeline. But this is the conversations we're having today.
I have this vague memory of when Cyndi Lauper was involved in wrestling organization, but other than that... Vince McMahon.
There we go.
No bells are ringing here, but I get the concept. Basically, what you're saying is Apple's rubbish now, but it's going to be rubbish later. That's okay.
Tech punditry at its finest, yes.
I thought that was quite in-depth analysis on my part there, but okay.
No, I mean, so what do you think about this concept? And, does Apple need to ditch Siri and come out with a new name? Like we need a boing boing or something, like just some new catchphrase to yell out to, or what's Apple doing over here?
Well, whenever I record videos that mention Siri, I have to be careful to not use the name, and I've ended up calling, because you don't want to trigger things over it, and I've ended up calling her Iris quite a lot. So in my mind, I would accept a Siri to Iris move. But no, I think it's a really good name, and it's Apple's. It's very clear and simple. Alexa always felt somehow oddly contrived, and Cortana, I get that there was a game link there, and I liked that there was, but nah. And Siri is fine and good as a name. I agree. Apple has it's done this before, of disappointing people with certain changes and not being able to get them back afterwards. Final Cut Pro is the biggest example of this. Also, Pages threw away lots of things in a revamp and slowly became better, but not immediately. Apple has a habit of letting people down and then eventually making it better. And I think in this case, there will just come a point when it is working and we don't think about it, and we've forgotten all of the little tiny piecemeal releases, and it is all the way. It is. I mean, at the moment, I am running I get very confused over different betas on different machines. But I will turn to a machine that has no betas on it, that I'm keeping safe and clear. And there are things in Apple Intelligence that I actually miss when I'm on it. So I think it's going to become like that. It'll seem like the new normal, and we'll forget it was ever any other way. And mostly it will work. So I just had to slip in the word mostly there. I didn't realise I was going to say it, but it came out like automatically. Mostly it just works. That should be what Apple's new slogan is. Not it just works, it mostly just works. That's what we should have. Huh?
Well, we've talked about AI before and up to now, and how it's evolved and how Apple is getting into it now. And there's something happening, though. It seems like we're hitting kind of a learning peak. They've absorbed every piece of information on the internet and have nothing else new to learn unless it's from themselves. Mm-hmm. I do wonder, now don't quote me on this as in a prediction, I do wonder if we can refine the systems and they will get better at certain things, but the intelligence aspect of it, how good it is, how fast it is, what it does, it making an image from nothing, generating text from a database. If we hit this peak AI now, what does it mean, quote unquote, for Apple to be behind or to catch up or whatever? Will 2026 truly be this ChatGPT is just sentient, right, walking amongst us, and Apple is releasing what is basically a microwave oven to compete with it? And I don't see that happening. There are these AI truthers out there who swear that sentience is moments away, and we're just getting so close. And I will tell you right now, that's just not even remotely possible. That's just not how this technology works. We're not going to create a sentient machine with quote unquote artificial intelligence. It's the biggest reason why I hate the name is because we use it on the wrong thing. It will never become quote unquote artificial intelligence. It just isn't. But so I do wonder if because we're seeing this feedback loop already for Gemini, ChatGPT, and these other technologies, what will that mean for their progress going forward? And will Apple have a chance to catch up? And will it even matter once they do? Because we'll be on to the next thing, the next hype cycle for VC money to pour into.
I do think it's interesting you said that last part, hype cycle, because we're starting to hear things like there was an expectation that there would be a super cycle of demand for the iPhone 16 because of Apple Intelligence, and now we're seeing that didn't seem to happen, but it's all right, it'll happen next year. And isn't there stuff about investors in AI processors are not seeing quite the rise they use? Also, there's enough of a feeling in the air that AI has reached the pinnacle of its hype bit and is on its way down again. So we would be looking for the next thing, whatever that could be.
I'll close on this. No one cares.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it on the show, and it's an important topic, and I think it should be discussed, especially amongst us enthusiasts. But walk outside of this tech bubble, no one cares. It's always shocking to me when I hear normal conversations. I often go work at this little, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's not really it's like a bar, but they serve sandwiches, a gastropub or something. I work at this little place down in town, and I get to be among the people. Sometimes on Fridays, it's my Friday thing. I'm not really doing anything too important. I'm managing social media, having a sandwich. And so I get to listen to people watch and all that stuff. And part of the conversations I hear are always so fascinating. And every now and then I hear someone talk about AI. And it's like this, I don't know, existential thing. Like they're not talking about it in any way other than it exists. And they're laughing at some stupid meme it made. And that's about it. Outside of tech, people barely speak of it, and the people that don't really understand what it's for and are vastly disappointed once they actually investigate what it is. I cannot emphasize this enough. Nobody cares about AI. You try talking to them about it, and they're just like, okay, so what does it do? Does it do this? No. Well, no. And then the list of no's just keep piling. They're like, well, what does it do? Well, it's really good at writing essays for fifth graders, but it still gets things wrong. Well, what is it for, right? And it's like, well, it's kind of like cryptocurrency, right? We created this entire system of a decentralized web of storing things cryptographically so that it can't be accessed by an individual, and then we used it for the worst thing possible, money. The technology is supreme. It's amazing. It's going to make things better for humanity, but our implementation of it is actual garbage, and we're just generating more and more garbage with it. Have you heard of NFTs? Just literal human garbage. So I think AI is in a similar trend. We found an excellent way to make our machine learning models evolve and make our computers faster, better, make apps execute things better in certain ways, but we're trying to make it what it isn't, and that's intelligent. And as the tech sphere moves beyond it, the normal people barely even heard of it, and it came and went so fast that they just don't care.
I'm kind of with you. I feel.
Do you agree? Have you noticed a similar sentiment?
Mostly. I'm also aware that there are things going on here in the UK to do with contracts and approvals, where the purpose of AI seems to be to screw writers out of money, and that's not being settled yet. So I get it, and I kind of want to agree with you more, but I have hesitation.
Well, you bring up a good point, because there's actually a third piece to this, right? There's the AI enthusiast people promoting it as the next coming of Christ. It's going to save humanity or destroy it. There's the individuals who are not tech enthusiasts, who honestly are oblivious or just do not care. It might as well not exist as far as they're concerned. It's basically this mythological technology that seems to exist on the internet and make funny memes, and that's about the end of it. But then there's this third place where you have companies basically trying to, CEOs, CTOs, people or CFOs thinking we can save a bunch of money by firing everyone and replacing them with AI, because apparently it's good enough for that, and it's just not. But they seem to think so because they believe the hype man instead of the worker individual who just does not care, who's like, hey, I'm still an artist, I'm still human, I can still do these things. Now, in some places, again, it's the natural march of humanity and technology, it does do better than people. Right? Mass database sorting, these kinds of things. You remember the movie Office Space? I believe their entire job was putting the correct decimal place in so that they were ready for Y2K. That can just be handled by an automated system now. We don't need them to do that. That's all fine. It's okay. I understand it's tragic when it happens, and technology, makes it so that the people working hard making clothes with the loom is no longer needed, right? And they start shattering looms in protest. It happens. History, it can be messy. The progress of technology can be messy, but it does happen. That's not always the case, though. This technology is good in some places, but it's not good everywhere. And there are these companies out there who think they can just upend the entire industry by firing everyone and have it fully automated by these quote-unquote AI machines. And a lot of them are learning, oh, actually, no, it doesn't work that way, and they're hiring people back. So I'm with you. It feels bad on the worker end. It feels like, script writers and artists and different things are attempting to be replaced, and that's terrible. The people and companies doing that deserve what they get as a result. I hope they go out of business or whatever, or very quickly learn their lesson and hire humans back at the very least, best case scenario. But and that is bad for the human workers affected. But I think we'll get through this. And again, the end result is still the same. The people making those decisions at companies will soon realize the same thing that people realize. It's an interesting tool. It's a very nice hammer. Use it for what it's meant for. Stop trying to change the world with a hammer.
This episode is brought to you by Notion. There's no shortage of helpful AI tools out there, but using them usually means switching back and forth between yet another set of digital tools, remembering that ChatGPT does this, Perplexity does that, and Apple Intelligence does the other. Instead of simplifying your workflow, it just becomes more complicated, and very soon you stop bothering to use any of it. Unless, of course, you're in Notion, and so you're using Notion AI. The new Notion AI is a single AI tool that does it all. Search across Notion and other apps. Generate documents in your own style. Analyze PDFs and images and chat with you, actually, about anything in your work. It's all right there in Notion itself. Notion, the app and service that combines your notes, your documents, and your whole projects into one working space that is simple and beautifully designed. It's your work, your ideas, but you can have, say, Notion AI turn those hurried, messy meeting notes into something polished. The more you work in Notion, the more Notion can help, because it isn't some generic chatbot. It has the context of what you've written, what you've made. And Notion AI isn't only plugged into your work within Notion, it connects with Slack, it can search across your Google Docs, and Notion is adding more options such as GitHub and Jira. So you have all of the advantages of multiple AI tools able to search multiple places you work, but none of the stop-start issues of leaving your work to go do something and then coming back. Notion AI means you can stay where you need to be, immersed in your work, but getting all of this extra help. Try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/AppleInsider. That's all lowercase letters. Notion.com/AppleInsider to try the powerful, easy to use Notion AI today. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show. Notion.com/AppleInsider. And thank you to Notion for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. There is a thing actually related to this about, companies and related and stuff, because we've just gone through a thing with Wolves and Apple TV. The short version is Apple, it seems, basically reneged on an original deal, allegedly, that it was going to give this film a wide theatrical release. The stars, George Clooney and Brad Pitt, took a big pay cut in order to enable that. And then a week before it was due to happen, Apple told the writer-director, not going to be doing that. We'll put it out for a week somewhere, a little bit. But it's all right. We're going to commission Wolves 2 from you. The director now says, deeply surprised and upset about this, but said to them, well, okay, but don't announce Wolves 2 yet. Apple announces Wolves 2 yet, and he decided, no, not going to be doing that. His phrase was, I no longer trust Apple as a creative partner. Now, that could be one thing. But we also have things like, I've said it on the show before, if you were a creative person and you had an idea for a show, Apple might be the first place you go to, because you have the problem that it's still not being watched by enough people, but it's had a good track record. And somewhere like Disney, for example, has a spectacularly bad track record. CEO Bob Iger basically dissing writers right in the middle of the writing strike, sitting in his billionaire, it's literally called the Billionaires Weekend Retreat or something, saying writers were wrong to be expected to get paid. That's a slight exaggeration of what he said, but not much. And then you also have Disney letting shows be made and then after they're completed, removing them forever from it. So you could get a deal with Disney. You might not dealing with them. The show you make and slay over might die even after it's been made. So Disney's like bottom of the list. Who do you go to now? Apple's sliding down. Paramount Plus, do they have any money? I think all of these companies and things are making actually maybe arguably sensible short-term decisions, but they're going to have long-term ramifications.
I think that, like with anything, we're getting one side of the story. True. Apple's not going to tell us what happened. Angry director going to be angry. I believe him 100%. So timeline, Wolves is made, was supposed to be theatrical. Apple realizes this is not going to make us any money after they had this didn't come out of nowhere. Fly Me to the Moon and a couple of other theatrical releases.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
One called
Argyle.
The spy flick.
Yeah.
Argyle. Those films just didn't do anything in theaters, and like less than nothing. It was really kind of embarrassing for Apple Studios how poorly those performed, but they were also competing against these huge explosion, Mission Impossible like films. So Apple, I think, realized way too late. They should have had this in the way earlier. This isn't working out. We need to do limited releases so we're eligible for Oscars, but that's it. This is, people do not want to see made for streaming movies in theaters. It's not happening. Let the blockbusters air in theaters and we'll stay out of it. Or, maybe Apple should make a blockbuster and go that route, but they don't seem interested in that as much, or at least they thought Argyle was a blockbuster and it wasn't. But in any case, the pattern continues until we get to Wolf's. They make the decision that they're going to lose money putting it in theaters, so they do a limited release. And then you start hearing these stories of, well, Apple thought it was a terrible movie, so don't go see it, because they obviously lost confidence in it. So Apple's like, no, we have utter confidence in this movie. In fact, we greenlit a sequel. And then the director says, you weren't supposed to say that. I want to do a sequel, but it was meant to be a secret. Like, you've revealed something I don't like, and you've went back on our deals. There's too many bad things happening. I'm pulling out completely. And of course, as these things go, Apple could sweeten the deal and he could come back. Who knows what the future holds. But it does go to show that we've seen an increasing number of things, not just Apple, but every streaming industry kind of falling apart to this idea that they're no longer making content for the sake of these things existing, but they're making it for the sake of money. And it changes the game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Steven Spielberg didn't go out here and make, these amazing films. Like, we didn't get Jurassic Park because, it wasn't a money grab. I think they always expected to make money off these things, but the artistic integrity was still intact. And I think we're losing some of that. We're just getting all of this garbage shoveled out down our throats because Netflix revealed something a while ago of volume making a huge difference. Just put out everything that you can make, and eventually a hit will arise. Like, yeah, Stranger Things was great, but the thousands of media content that Netflix produced around it was hot garbage. But everyone talks about Stranger Things, right? So thankfully Apple hasn't gone down that road, but it seems like the industry is still clinging to the idea of make everything, even if it sounds dumb, and it will find an audience. It's an endless cycle that's honestly bad for creativity.
Well, we've always everything has been driven by money before. Network television, of course, has always gone for what could sell the most advertising. But even network TV, it's more formulaic. That's a bad word. I don't mean the content. I mean the process of making television in the States has always been of a very similar format. You have things like independent production companies being paid a certain amount by the network, and then they make up the rest of the money in syndication later. All sorts of procedures and steps that have been that way in the States for decades, and they're not really the same anywhere else. But even under those circumstances, producers and networks knew things like you would have a writer's room of writers for the whole season. And the benefit of that was that in America, certainly more in the UK, writers of television become producers of television. And I believe that makes that television better. We don't have that here. It's quite rare to have someone like Russell T Davies become a showrunner. I mean, really rare. Shouldn't be, and it's changing. But we benefit when that kind of thing happens. And there's Jon Stewart saying that Apple is saying, no, you can't have a writer's room for the whole run. You can have this many writers for that long. And that's actually becoming like the British model, where writers are sometimes treated like stationery. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how a company that appears to be creatively motivated as much as it is by money hasn't learnt that there are reasons network television spends money when you could argue it shouldn't. I feel like we're having to the companies are relearning things, and it's going to be at our cost. We get great television now. A few years' time,
yes,
we'll be out of the golden age. Maybe that's a possibility, and then it'll pick up again, and it's all very predictable.
Nostalgia is a powerful drug, and I
Sure.
expect that in 20 years, people will be talking about the 2020 films being the greatest and the 2040 films being this sad, terrible thing where nobody's creative anymore. It's just an endless cycle. I'm sure they were saying the same thing in the 90s and the 80s, that film's losing its touch. Writers, sure, but at the same time, I do honestly believe that we've lost the ability to make passion projects, I guess. Right? You see what happened with was it Megalopolis being this utter passion project and panned because it was long and confusing and the plot was difficult to follow. And then you know what, that could probably be a cult classic in 20 years. Who knows? But at the same time, you look at the other end and like there's actual garbage being churned out, right? Like Paramount Plus is promoting this stupid, terrible film with Jack Black about this kid with dyslexia accidentally writing a letter to Satan instead of Santa. It's really actual plot.
Yeah.
And it's hot garbage. And but then I look back at the 90s and I'm like, I wonder again if it's the cloud of nostalgia talking, and listeners can tell me, maybe our demographic will just agree with me. Like, I look at what something like Little Nicky did with Adam Sandler, and it worked, but was it because I was the right age at the right time watching that movie, or was it because the writing was better? Again, Little Nicky didn't go out here and win any awards, but it was a good, simple story, simple comedy with some fun props, right? And it seems like the people making it just had a blast making it versus something like Dear Santa with Jack Black being kind of a cash grab, trying to capture his stardom while he's starring in all of these big films. Even the movie itself couldn't help but have a Bowser doll in the background and children wearing Minecraft shirts the whole time. So I can't help but wonder if that's kind of what's happening here, is we're just kind of, everything's becoming so commercialized and so washed in its commercialism that we're losing the touch with the art. And it all comes in cycles, maybe we'll learn our lesson. I keep hearing from people who make these things a lot saying, back in the day, we would just fill a room with writers and they would lock the door and come back and see what we had made. And today we're lucky to have two writers trying to piece together a storyline that they know half of because one of them's a new hire and the other one's reading a manuscript from the guy who quit because he was overworked, right? There's such a big difference in how things were handled, 20 years ago versus today. And it makes me kind of mourn for a better time. And again, maybe nostalgia is kicking in. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everything being made today is amazing, but it's not the feeling I get. And I hope that Apple can pull through this and realize they make enough money and maybe they can use some of that to reignite creativity, throw some money at the wall, let people make their passion projects. And Apple has an opportunity, I think, and we'll close on this here, to become another A24. Just make the movies, make them beautiful, let the creatives be creative, step back, get out of the way, let them do their thing, and magic will happen. But let the money get involved and it will fall apart every single time.
Well, actually, too, a positive end to this. For a long time, it's been really difficult to get a film away that was medium budget. It was either threepenny halfpenny or it was $600 million or something. Apple had a certain spend. It was going to be $1 billion a year or something like that. I can't remember the figures. And it was going to be on like 2 films. Now it sounds like it's the same amount of money on, I don't know, 10 something. So they're going to be smaller budget films, which changes their stories, makes them less risky financially. I think it could work out. It's just a delicate time.
I've yet to watch a bad movie on Apple TV, and yet I haven't watched Argyle yet, so maybe that'll change if I ever watch it.
I keep meaning to. The trailer was great, but people kept putting me off. But,
I feel like the film is the trailer, and that's probably the part where it falls apart. And that's my understanding from what I've heard from people who've watched it. But I've pretty much watched every other feature-length film on Apple TV, and I honestly haven't encountered a bad one. I loved Wolves. Wolves was excellent.
I still haven't got around to it. Yeah.
Peak George Clooney, Brad Pitt, love it. So good. I'm excited for F1. I think they're doing great work over there. I am afraid that from the creative side, from directors and writers and stuff, we're seeing some of that burnout that the rest of the industry is seeing. And again, Apple has the money, just throw it at the wall, see what sticks, kind of thing. Don't do the Netflix approach, not that throw the money at the wall, but just give more to what you have, right? Let people make the things you want to make. Make more Codas, make more Ted Lassos. And I think they are making more Ted Lassos. I mean, we have 3 Ted Lassos. We have Shrinking, we have Bad Monkey, Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso is coming back. So good for William. But I did want to
Silo, Slow Horses. Sorry, but you were saying you wanted to.
Just joking. No. So quickly, I wanted to move down the list here. Apple did announce the finalists for its Apple Awards.
Yes.
We have some really good ones in here. Kino, the video app from Halide. I think it's funny that Bluey Let's Play is in the same list as Procreate Dreams for iPad apps.
I didn't notice that.
Yes. Bluey is just a phenomenon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you guys over there, is that the Australian
Apparently
cartoon?
so.
Okay.
Last week's Strictly Come Dancing, the original of Dancing with the Stars, it was like a charity version of it, and there was a dance in which Bluey performed with the professional dancers. And I kind of heard the name and now what he looks like. So yes, it's a big thing here as well, apparently.
Oh yes, Bluey took over the world, and deservedly so. It's an excellent little piece of media. So we have iPad games, of course, Apple's sweetheart, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Balatro, Apple Arcade Game of the Year finalists. I wonder if Apple just kind of, it's like, well, it came out in 2024, right? Right? Because I'm pretty sure Balatro came out, I'm saying it wrong. I'm pretty sure it came out like last month, and it's Game of the Year finalist because, to be fair, Apple Arcade didn't really have any bangers this year. I would say I could not name one that was just like, wow, this is amazing. But cool. Yeah, check out this list. Lots of finalists. I think 45.
Big one. There's one very big one. OmniFocus 4 in the
of course.
It's just Mac App of the Year, and it's like a productivity tool. And yes, I kind of slightly punched the air for that. Something so well made, getting some recognition. Good on them.
It better be Adobe Lightroom, is all I'm saying.
I realised I don't actually know when Apple's going to announce the winners for it. Have they said the dates yet?
Usually December-ish. I want to say
so, okay.
December 11th or something.
Okay. I will actually be paying attention and rooting for OmniFocus, my beloved to-do app, to do as well as it should. Yeah.
Yes, we will get the list when it comes out and share it here, and it will be blasted in your faces every time you open the App Store. So don't worry, I'm sure everyone will know who won Apple's awards. I did want to mention, it is Black Friday. There's a million things. As you were listening, Apple Insider, of course, is going to be sharing a bunch of stuff, but not just deals. I wanted to share a different kind of deal. They're app deals. So if you go on Blue Sky, you'll see a bunch of indie app developers putting their apps on sale. Lots of big names in there. I would definitely say go check it out. We'll get a link in the show notes. But moving on quickly, I wanted to talk about this little project I had going on. I wanted to make my Mac Mini portable.
Oh, have you actually done it? You talked about doing that. You've done it.
Yes, so it was never any doubt in my mind. I mean, batteries exist with AC outlets. It was never an issue. But there's a certain feature set, and I just kind of wanted to have it in front of me so I knew what I wanted, because I didn't really know what I wanted out of it until I actually did it. So I went on and found the cheapest, well, I wouldn't say cheapest, it was about $60 for a decent battery with an outlet, 100-watt output, and ordered it, got it here. It's cute. I made sure it, of the selections that I had, I picked the one that was the most similar dimension-wise to the Mac Mini, and yeah, it worked out. Couple of things. So this was definitely a learning experience, and I wrote about it. There's a link in the show notes. And if you want to know the name of the battery, it doesn't have one. It's one of those companies that just, I think it's honestly a dropship product from like a random Chinese website. But it's labeled as portable laptop power bank, 100-watt AC outlet, 72-watt, 20,000 milliamp hour with 65-watt power delivery, USB-C, portable laptop charger, external battery pack for MacBook, notebooks, and laptops. Thanks, Amazon. This thing was cool. It's 20,000 milliamp hours, which is about the standard for a smallish battery pack. a little bit bigger than 5x5 inches. The Mac Mini sits on top of it comfortably. I bought a short AC outlet to plug it in, so there wasn't a big cable to deal with. Great. Powered it on. The loudest fans in the history of man turned on inside of this battery because it has its own inverter, obviously, because if you're plugging in an AC cable and it's a DC battery, it needs to transfer that power. And it's going to 100 watts, so it's a mildly large wattage, so it's a loud inverter. I hear some electrical whine, coil whine, as we call it, and fan noise as this battery is powering on. And I'm like, oh, no. Experiment over, throwing it in the trash. Actually, no, it was fine. It's just very loud. So I put my AirPods in and turned on noise canceling to ignore it. Plugged in the Mac Mini, powered it on. Works great. I got the power monitoring tool for my menu bar in the Mac, so I could see how much wattage it was drawing. It can hit 65 watts, but it never did. I don't know what I would have to do to this thing to make it hit that. It operationally runs around 11 to 15 watts, and that's where it stayed, unless I was doing something taxing, which it would get up to maybe 25 watts. So plenty of power. It can run for hours on 20,000 milliamps. So I didn't want to sit here and run the timer. I honestly could just run it all afternoon, like 5, 6, 7 hours. So just kind of left it be on that one. Plugged it into my Vision Pro, ran the Mac Mini simultaneously from the same battery pack, and that worked for about 2 hours, which was perfect. That's all you need it for. Apple Vision Pro battery fully powered the whole time, Mac Mini operating, all good. Proof of concept complete. So now I guess I've lessons learned. It's not a UPS. So I plug in the charger into its USB-C port. It turns off the inverter. So if it's charging, it cannot be discharging. Oops. Cheap battery for you. So in the future, if I'm finding a nice one, I want it to have a pass-through power mode where I can unplug the cable and have it instantly change to battery power without powering off the device. And I would also like it to be silent. So goals for the future, a battery like that would probably cost closer to $300-$400, but it would be worth it to have a cute little portable Mac Mini. It turns out Vision Pro does not need an external monitor attached to the Mac to go into virtual display mode, unlike Sidecar. So I can run this thing completely headless, no dongles, no nothing, just powered by the battery, connect my keyboard over Bluetooth, completely sight unseen type in the password to unlock the Mac because you're waking it up from sleep. You can't go to virtual display mode from that state. So you have to type in your password on the mechanical keyboard or on your Bluetooth keyboard, hit enter, wait a few moments, put on your Vision Pro, and then check and see if it's available. If it isn't, you probably mistyped it. Type in the password again, rinse and repeat until it shows up in the menu. And then you connect and you have a virtual display on your Vision Pro from this little portable guy. Really cool. I love it. And I can't wait for someone to make a bespoke battery for this thing.
Call me dense, but you were so far into that before I realised why you would want this. I was thinking, you got to bring a keyboard, you got to bring a screen. What's the advantage? But yes, can you connect a MacBook to a Vision Pro? You must be able to.
Yes, but okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Why did I do this? Why not go and buy a MacBook Air? Well, first of all, I traded in my MacBook Pro for this because of reasons. So, first of all, a MacBook has a monitor, and they're beautiful displays and very expensive. The starting price for a MacBook Air is $1,000. Starting price for a MacBook Pro, so just under $2,000, right? Or well, I guess $1,499. I guess if you're getting the 14-inch. Yeah. So in any case, expensive. The Mac Mini starts at $600. So first of all, you're ditching all of that hardware. And why would I have a screen in my Mac if I'm not using it? I'm using the virtual display. So that was another reason. And then you're burning battery power and all this stuff. And you can't run virtual display from a clamshell MacBook. It has to be open.
And I didn't realize that. That's odd because you can run monitors to the clamshell mode, can't you? So Okay, I didn't expect that.
Yes, but the MacBook sleeps when it's shut unless it's connected to an external monitor. So you can't run virtual display while it's asleep. So that was an issue. Just a lot of little quibbles. It's a MacBook is this going to take up the I have the backpack from Waterfield for Apple Vision Pro. It has a slot for the Vision Pro. It has a slot for my Mac Mini and battery, and has a slot for my iPad Pro, and nothing else. So I couldn't bring my iPad and MacBook with me at the same time with this backpack. Right. So there's just so many little considerations. The Mac Mini, if you can buy whatever battery pack you want. I could power this thing for 10 hours on a decent little battery pack if I had it, and run it completely headless from and carry it in a pocket in my backpack, right? Like that's the kind of form factor we're looking at here. I have it on my shelf, right? And sometimes I need it to be portable. So I want to unplug it from my shelf and carry it around with me. But you can't do that with a desktop, right? So there's a reason why I pursued this in the first place and don't want a MacBook. So believe me, I understand. It's just like, why not get the MacBook? But when you really look into it, it does make sense. And now I'm kind of getting the idea of, okay, well, what if I don't have the Vision Pro? I might buy one of those HDMI dongles that tricks it into having an external monitor, so it always thinks it's connected to a monitor. And that way I can use shortcuts to use an Apple script to wake the Mac, log in with my password, and initiate Sidecar, all from AppleScript over shortcuts on the iPad without having to touch the Mac, which would be really cool. So there's a lot of fun things you can do here. It was just meant to be a fun little project. I'm a proof of concept, and I will likely be writing about this later when I find an actual good battery recommendation, because honestly, this battery is terrible, but it got the job done.
I was just thinking, you were talking there about using Sidecar with an iPad. You could use an iPhone, and I can't remember the name of the term. I sometimes log in remotely to my Office Mac when I've forgotten something. I do it from the phone. It's not VPN, VNC connection. So you could just bring a Mac Mini in your iPhone. And no, you're getting me sucked into this world now. Right, you could have just bought a MacBook Air for $1,000, and instead you have whatever the battery cost, the Mac Mini at what, 600 plus? And the Apple Vision Pro for $3,500.
Yeah, well, I have the upgraded stuff, so it's like a $4,000 Apple Vision Pro, an $800 Mac Mini, not included. So I actually had that comment of, you can have your own portable headless Mac setup just for the price of a $60 battery. Right. Vision Pro and Mac Mini not included. So it was a fun little thing, and I'm excited to see. I love modularity in computing, and this was just another example of the possibilities of what Apple's smallest Mac might be able to do versus a MacBook Pro, right? Everything has their own advantages and disadvantages, and I like exploring those through these little projects. But yeah, this was a fun project, and I'm just always happy to kind of play around with my technology. Like, why not? Why have it if you're not going to have fun with it, right? But speaking of fun, the iPhone 17 rumors are getting ridiculous. Like, I don't even know what's happening anymore. Some of these are just so obvious. One of them was like, the telephoto lens isn't coming to the iPhone 17 Slim. Yeah, it's not the Pro phone. Apple reserves that for the Pro phones. Why would it come to the new Slim model? I mean, I think the Slim model even isn't getting the wide camera. I think it's going to have one camera. So it was one of those just absurd rumors. Another one was no SIM tray. Okay, Apple went eSIM. So
you went eSIM in the US, right? Over here, we've still got to deal with those fiddly little SIM things. But
well, you don't have to. You still have eSIM. You just have the physical port, and ultimately, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. I did want to say the one that stood out to me though was iPhone 17 Pro might get rid of titanium. No, going back to aluminum. I don't, unless Apple has some new kind of aluminum that's cheaper but still durable. Is aluminum lighter than titanium? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but
I believe titanium was much lighter. That was one of the reasons people were going on about how light the would have been the 15.
right.
I get lost up in the numbers now. We're talking so far into the future. The 15 Pro, everybody say, "Oh, it's so much lighter," and it's because of the titanium.
This comes from the information, which is a spotty track record. Honestly, if I had written this, I would have said this was a unlikely rumor. We rated it a possible, which we have a rumor rating system. If you guys didn't know, but yeah, this is not happening. I don't really know why Apple would do this. It would be such a odd decision unless the world has just run out of titanium, which I guess is a possibility. But maybe they made too many Apple cards. I wonder, maybe Apple will say the Apple iPhone 17 Slim is made out of 100% recycled Apple cards. That would be interesting. Moving on, last thing. We're talking about, it's that time of year, it's the end of the year, and everyone's talking about grading Apple's year, right? People are putting together their report cards, and I just want to say big F to the AirPods Max, right?
You're not a fan. You've got them, haven't you?
I'm wearing them. No, the AirPods Max are an amazing product. The ones I'm wearing came out in 2020. I'm talking about their update. Just absolute failure of an update. Just tragic. And to pile on that sadness, it appears that internally there are no plans to make the next generation AirPods Max right now. I mean, it doesn't mean it's never going to come. It's just, what are you doing, Apple? Give us the H2 chip. Give us the improved noise canceling and better audio processing. Honestly, if there was ever a reason to put an H2 chip in an AirPods Max, it's the Apple Vision Pro for the lossless connection, H to H2 lossless. What are you doing? The most premium headset you could make for $3,500 cannot pair with your most premium headphones. Wow. What is happening?
Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it pairs over Bluetooth, but I'm talking about like AirPods Pro 2 are the only headphones you can buy from Apple that have a proprietary chipset for pairing with the Apple Vision Pro losslessly.
You would think then. It's actually, I mean, there's got to be a physical limit to how much even Apple can update at the same time. We are heading towards that holiday season. You would have thought these were possible, presentable things, but
I would have bought AirPods Max 2 with H2 chips in a heartbeat. I would have ordered them on pre-order day. They would have been here. It would have cost me $600, and I would have gladly done it because they are amazing headphones, and the new technology would have made them leaps and bounds better. I would have welcomed USB-C. It would have been great. But the fact that all they did was introduce a couple of colors and add USB-C, abject failure of the product, honestly. Like, they should have just not updated it. I mean, I know there's people out there who are happy with their USB-C AirPods Max, and they're like, yay, finally, one cable. It's just, why? Like, I'm glad you got it, and maybe there are new customers buying into it. That's fine. I understand why they exist. But Apple, the H2 chip has existed for a couple of years now. It's not like you're out of them. Did you just not have someone available to go back and, like, configure the motherboard and the AirPods Max to work this way? Like, is it just, what is the problem? And to have it not even in the pipeline for it to be updated anytime in the next couple of years, just wild to me. I don't understand the decision making there. I get it's a low volume product, but when has that stopped Apple from updating their products before? Look at the Mac Pro. Yeah, it doesn't come every couple of years, but we're talking about 4 years of AirPods Max without an update, and they still don't actually update it. Just one of those weird flubs that Apple has. Very rare. Oops. You did an actual bad job here, Apple. But just wanted to point that one out.
Well, I've never even used AirPod Max, so I can't comment. But that doesn't always stop me. But this time it will. Noted, an F for AirPods Max. That's sad.
Final little plug, and because I promise this is it. I did watch the concert for One with Ray.
Oh yes,
excellent. I want 50 of these from every genre of music you can imagine. It does help that Ray is an awesome artist. I actually had first discovered her through SNL. She performed live, and she did an excellent job on the show, to the point I was just like, okay, I need to go figure out this artist. And the reason why I gravitated towards her is because she has this big band sound, right? And I think you could appreciate this, William. So I would go give her a listen. Specifically Genesis. She has a 7-minute version of this, or I think it's the original version, but it's 7 minutes long. And there's this like big band break, and she kind of gets jazzy and scatty in there. It's just so well done. The lyrics are good. The storytelling, just all of it. But in Apple Vision Pro, in this little concert venue of just her singing, and it cuts away to the people playing the instruments and the backup singers singing along, and it was just a lot of fun. And I really like the format, and I think it again shows. Go back to the original almost a year ago now. The original like Ariana Grande. I keep saying her name. I'm sure that's the one that it was. It was anyway. It was a musician inside of a studio recording, and that was great. But you could tell that they didn't know what to do with the cameras, so they just put them in boxes, and we would jump between the boxes, kind of inorganically during the session. It worked. It was a good video, and I still go back and look at it sometimes because it was an excellent representation of the technology. But then you jump forward almost a year to this Concert for One, and it is a dramatic change in how we've learned how to film and use these things. There's no sense of being inside a camera box. You're just watching a video, and the way they frame it, they do pans and zooms and tilts and different things. They're obviously figured out how to put these things on rails, but just so much better made. I'm sorry, William, you can't watch it, but there is a 30-second trailer, I guess, in Apple Music if you really want to see what the venue looked like. But and just as a final plug, they did put the songs, the live recordings of the songs, into Apple Music, so you can listen to them sans Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
So
right, I'll do that. I'd not actually even heard of it before you started talking about it, so I'll do that and relish. Okay, thank you.
And wrapping up, as always, we're going to look at our reviews. We did get, we talked about Blue Sky a lot last week. I'm really leaning into the platform. I'm enjoying it. Mastodon still exists. I'm checking the feeds, but I'm noticing that a lot of the people I followed in Mastodon are actually also migrating to Blue Sky. So it's not that I've abandoned Mastodon. It's just there's a lot of redundancy right now, and we're still kind of trying to figure out where everything will fall in the end. But I'm not going to go delete Mastodon or anything. I'm experimenting with cross-posting and all these things, so we'll see how that goes. But guys, if you want to find me, I'm still Hilly Tech everywhere, hilly.tech on Blue Sky. If you want to follow me, get a hold of me, talk about the podcast, talk about what we've discussed here. Email me, wes@appleinsider.com. But also, you can get a hold of us through podcast reviews. And we've got, actually, I said all that about social media because someone on Blue Sky, Cynthia, is a relatively new listener, I guess, or at least a new subscriber to Apple Insider Plus. They said that they love the show. Fridays are my happy day because I get to listen to a new episode. So thanks for that, Cynthia. Lovely comment.
Yes. Well, Cynthia did actually, she had just signed up for AppleInsider Plus, so that was a nice thing to find on Blue Sky when I went there the other day.
Yeah, and I'm actually getting so on Mastodon we would post the show and discuss it and stuff, but it would be rare and far between getting particular discussions. Again, I think it's just the zeitgeist of the moment where people are joining up, but we've seen a lot more discussion from listeners, people chiming in saying, "Hey, I listened to the show." They're jumping into different comments and different things. So I'm just seeing a lot of activity there. So, yeah, join in. It seems to be pretty lively over there right now, at the very least. And if you're a listener and don't have an account yet, you can join up and follow me and William both. But the podcast reviews this week, pretty good. So we've had someone named RedPixel09 leave a review a while back. They commented before about William and I's banter slowly improving over time, audio quality changing with time. It dropped off for a while because William had a mic issue, but they just updated their review to say, hey, William's mic sounds good. So thanks, RedPixel09, for updating your review, saying that the show is getting better.
No, I was just thinking, I managed to screw up the microphone. I broke one. I did all sorts of audio things there. I'm grateful for the patience as I sorted it out. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, a lot of things, sometimes transitions happen. It's fine. Every show goes through it. But also we have a review from KDog2010. Love it, but can be annoying at times. I like the podcast a lot, but William tends to make awkward jokes, go off topic a lot. And other than that, it's a great podcast. Yeah, everybody has a...
Can I just point out, 3 men walk into a bar, and no, that's not what you mean at all, isn't it? Okay, I'll watch that.
No, I think I like William's asides, and I make them too. It's part of the show, part of the vocal thing. That's we can only be so entertaining talking to you through your eardrums. So everyone has their tastes, and maybe William's isn't to this person's taste, but I quite enjoy talking to William, and glad for the input. They still gave us 4 stars anyway, so it's not like they dislike the show. Oh. Yeah. So nice. Thanks for the reviews, everyone. Please continue leaving reviews and telling us what you think of the show. Comment on everything we've discussed here. Tell me how wrong I am about AI. Whatever you need to do, just reach out. William, where can people find you?
Well, I've been practicing this because it's very new to me. wgallagher.bsky.social on Blue Sky is the current good way to know. But there's always email, william@appleside.com. I have a YouTube channel called 58 Keys. Anyway you like. Love nattering, but Blue Sky is the new toy, really, for me.
Yeah. Blue Sky's good at search. You don't need to remember all that. You can just search William Gallagher. You can search Wesley Hilliard. You can search Hilly Tech. It'll all work out in the end. Honestly, you could search 58 Keys and get William as well. So, yeah. Good recent episode, by the way. I saw you in the car. That was fun.
Thank you. Yes. On my way to a publisher's meeting, as it turns out, but that's another story. Okay.
Well, everyone, I think that wraps up the show for this week. If you are a paid subscriber, you'll hear us on Apple Insider Plus in just a moment discussing how we handle Black Friday, if we even care at all about the deals. The deals. I will say, if you are a publisher out there, you send one email saying, hey, there's a Black Friday sale. Great. I'll never need to know it again. But send it twice a day for a week, you're going to land on a block list. I don't understand why they think that works, but apparently it does with some people. And thanks again for listening to the show. We'll talk to you guys next week. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Notion, once again. Talk then.